The Print Off the Cuff, presented by IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, corporate partner AU Small Finance Bank.
Mental health is one of the most overlooked areas of our overall health and wellness. And all of us, the entire world, has been reminded of the perils of not focusing on it by the pandemic. 2.5 years of living by ourselves. Many of us have had time to reflect. Some have become loners. Some have missed. Some have not quite liked becoming loners. But certainly, people have discovered an aspect of their lives that they might have been overlooking, and that's mental health. And that's why I'm so happy to feature on this episode of Off the Cuff a wonderful woman, Mrs. Neerja Birla, who's now founder and chairperson of Mpower, that is Mpower, Mpower, which is an initiative of Aditya Birla Education Trust. Aditya Birla Group, we know well. Many of you might even have shares in the companies of the group. The group also does great philanthropy. It's always done so for more than a century now. And for this group now to move into an initiative on mental health is a very, very welcome thing. So thank you very much, Neerja ji, and thank you for doing it yourself. You could have just hired somebody to do it.
Thank you so much, Shekhar ji. Wonderful to be on this show with you. So just a slight correction. Actually, we're not, so Mpower is an initiative that is a part of the Aditya Birla Education Trust, like you very rightly said. But we're not a charitable organization, if you know what I mean. It's a trust, and Mpower is a social enterprise.
I see.
So we're here to create social impact. Of course, a lot of the work that we do is pro bono. A lot of the work that we do is with the marginalized sections of society. But Mpower in itself is a social enterprise, and we're really wanting to create social impact and bring about change, in this space of education and mental health. As you very rightly said, mental health, of course, has always been like a white elephant sitting in the room. One of the silver linings of the COVID has been that it's really brought it into sharper focus. We had, of course, but started talking about mental health, and Mpower in itself launched about almost 7 years ago now. At that point in time, it was such a taboo topic. You won't believe it. In our first ever press conference that we had when we launched Mpower, we had all of 2 journalists coming, Shekhar ji, for it, because that was the kind of taboo and that was the kind of lack of awareness that there was. From there to now, even, media talking about it in mainstream has been a huge paradigm shift. So, and I'm really glad that Mpower has been instrumental. I'm very humbled by that, but, we've been pioneers, and I feel very proud that we've been able to bring about, shift in that mindset.
Well, first of all, to confess that I'm still figuring out the distinction between pure philanthropy and social impact investing. And I do understand it now. And I know that you do a bit of both. So keep doing both, because social impact enterprises mean they have greater scalability, isn't it?
Yes. And also, the idea, of course, I mean, everyone, when you're doing philanthropy, you do that. But I think with the social enterprise, you're also wanting to, it's like a business where you're wanting to scale up, you're wanting to increase the scope of it. But the objective is social impact more than, business in that sense. So
I'm a believer in the market, so I'll go with this. Now, tell me, what made you join this initiative or take the leadership in this initiative?
So, we first started with a couple of schools, and, one obviously realized that mental health was something that a lot of people were grappling with, but nobody was really talking about it. And from my own personal experiences also, I realized that, very often one didn't know, where to seek help from, for example, or if somebody was having a mental health concern, one didn't even know, or one was not even able to talk about it because the taboo around it was so much. And I just felt that, the need over in this space was obviously a lot, and there was nobody willing to talk about it. And I think that, that's something that I'm just passionate about, where I just feel so close and so strong about certain things. And this is one of them where I feel that, everyone has a right to lead a fulfilled life, irrespective of, whether you have a depressive disorder or not. And I find that very often people confuse the two and just think that just because you have a mental health concern means you're not fit to lead a productive life. And that's what we're really trying to, destigmatize and really bring about equality of sorts there.
And what is Headspace International? Because your team sent me some details of all the various things you're doing. So Headspace International, okay.
So Headspace is an app, actually. It's a global app. And so I'm on that board, and I've just joined it. I'm really looking at creating some sort of collaborations with them because they are global. They've got a huge reach. So, I would like to collaborate with them and see how we can, get those benefits to India and how we can sort of increase our scope there.
Yeah. So your vision, I know it's very wide, but looking at India, where exactly is India right now? I mean, everything in India, every sector has a lot that needs to be done, but mental health in particular.
So I think the numbers, India in itself, I think, as we all know that India is one of the highest in terms of mental health concerns. India is the highest in the world. The burden of mental health concerns is the highest in India. Also, the numbers in India are so huge that our population is so huge, and a large percent of the population also suffers from depression and related disorders. So obviously we are very high on that, but there isn't enough treatment. There isn't enough. People don't have enough access to mental health care because a lot of our population is in rural India, right? So I think the treatment gap is very high. We don't have the number of psychiatrists and psychologists. Our ratio is very less. So though our numbers are very high, I think we really need to increase our treatment as well. So I think the government coming up with Telemanas, for example, I think is a huge step because, that's a great way to actually reach out to the rural population and at least make mental health care available, at least for people who are in acute psychological distress. So we're working in Maharashtra already with the government. We're collaborating with them for their district mental health program. And we are seeing that, the distances that people have to travel is so humongous. And now that, we've started making it more easily accessible, the more and more people are willing to take help because they obviously realize that, the time is reduced. We're also making medicines available more easily to them. So people are willing to come for it. And we're also offering counseling services. So I think, and we're also doing a lot of workshops and increasing the mental health literacy. So I think when everything comes together, I think that's when we're going to be able to see a shift. Just doing one thing alone may not help. It'll have to be a 360-degree solution that we provide.
Workplace mental stress. How extensive do you find this is in India? And our companies, large companies in particular, who have a lot of employees, are they mindful of this or not?
I think the problem, it's a global issue, of course, and I think India is no exception. Like I said, the numbers in India are already so high. I think that larger corporates are now getting more sensitive to it. So, and as we speak, I think, like I said, initially, we didn't have any corporates wanting to take any kind of workshops. In fact, I remember initially one of them even told us that we will take the workshop, but you will have to change the name, the word mental health in it. We don't want the term mental health coming in the workshop. Such was the taboo. So, but I think I think more and more people are cognizant of that. I think they are trying to get about, mental health and its benefits at the workplace. Of course, we have a long way to go. But I think we'll get there because at least the conversations have started and people are willing to provide mental health care to the employees, take workshops, so offer them facilities of having a helpline. People also the employees themselves also are not so open to receiving help. But I think corporations, the larger ones are definitely trying to do their bit.
So I will also take some questions from our subscribers, our viewers, and some of my colleagues also. Usually we would have done it as an on-ground event with a live audience. That unfortunately we can't. We are still sort of shaking ourselves out of the pandemic mode. So I have a question from Sanjay Agarwal, who's MD and CEO of AU Small Finance Bank. And I think many of our subscribers, sponsors are smarter than me. So they help me by asking the better questions. So he's asking, people in India are still living in denial and silence when it comes to mental health. How can this situation be improved? So before we address mental health, first we have to get people to feel strong enough or confident enough to say that, yes, I have this problem.
Yeah. That's exactly what what we just discussed is that it'll have to be a 360 approach because the awareness has to be created first, which is what we also try to do is first at least create the awareness about mental health, because very often it's trivialized or we just think that it's really not worth even discussing. A lot of times we're not even aware that we may be having a mental health concern. You sometimes just go through life thinking that ye to aise hi hai. We're just feeling a little overwhelmed and it's normal. Little do we realize that it could be a physiological reason for it. So I think creating awareness is the first and foremost thing that we need to do, which is why we do a lot of workshops. Even before getting into counseling, we're increasing the mental health literacy of people. Just having more and more conversations about it is the only way that we can actually break the stigma and get people to be aware about it.
How does this app help?
The Headspace app?
Yes.
I think that's more for, that provides, of course, information. So if you go onto the app, it will provide you information about mental health and its concerns, but it's also providing solutions like, some little sort of talks or some sort of meditations and just little bits and pieces solutions.
Yeah. So since I said there are lots of viewers and listeners also, so I think a lot of them think that you are actually their counselor. So I will not take all those questions, but I'll take some because I think those are more generic. So there is Ashish Agnihotri, who says, I am a UPSC student. It's very stressful to be a UPSC student because as we know, the odds are 1 in many lakhs.
Right.
I'm a UPSC student, already invested 5 years in preparations, although I was below average student till graduation. This is the last year. I want to ask, what is the process to crush your dreams what is the process? I think what he means is, what is the process to handle a situation that crushes your dreams without affecting us too much? Means like, saap bhi mar jaye, lathi bhi na toote.
Yeah, so I guess it's about building resilience, and in fact, there's a very nice story which I was just reading is about, a Zen master was walking with his students and right in front of them, the student slipped actually, and there was a bamboo tree which he held on to. The bamboo was, he sort of held on to it and the bamboo tree bent along with him, but it helped him bend back. So, that just goes to show that, how resilient the bamboo is because it's able to, even when there's a massive storm and strong winds, big trees can snap because they're just so not flexible. But a bamboo tree, because of its resilience, because of the flexibility, will bend with its adversity, but bounce back. And that's what is resilience, where I think if we are able to change our perspectives about adversity and find, opportunity in that, and then bounce back, making the most of that opportunity is what can help you actually not think about it, not as a crushed dream, but something that you, of course, work towards. And, experiencing disappointment, I think, is very, very natural. So I don't think that you should shy away from feeling disappointed. Of course, you're going to feel disappointed. Maybe take some time off, but know that everything that you tried that didn't work out, which is what I would call it and not call it a failure, there is some good to it. There is always a silver lining. Let's pick up on that opportunity. What is it that you can learn from it and make that your stepping stone to move forward?
Well, that's very well said. And if I may add a little personal experience also for my friend who asked the question, that look, these things happen in life. If I quote my own example, my pre-university, which is first year college, and my pre-medical, all of us thought we'll become doctors or engineers in our times. In both years, I got bullseye, an identical score, perfectly identical score of exactly 48.9%, right? So it was very disappointing. And then my second year and third year college, I was number 3 in the university. But I didn't think I was any smarter in those 2 years than I was in the previous 2, or I was dumber in the previous 2 years than I was now. So these things, there is a lot more to life than just performance in one exam or in a bunch of exams. So that's more like an old parent's line. So I thought I'll let that out. Now, I have Dr. Dakshayani Khanna, who says heartiest congratulations to Ms. Birla for the wonderful work that she and her team are doing in the field of mental health. And her question is, what are the 3 most important strategies that a teacher or school can use in the classroom, which will make students develop trust and ask for help for their emotional and mental turmoil when they are going through it, instead of hiding it or doing silly things?
So instead of 3, I would just say 1, which is to create a safe space and not let the children feel that they are being judged. So the first time a child comes up and says that he or she is facing an issue or a concern, I think if we just listen to the child, right, before passing judgment or before telling and refrain from telling the child that, judging the child or making him feel that it's his fault, if we just listen to him in an unbiased manner and then offer solutions so that the child just feels it's safe to go and speak to the counselor. Very often, we don't want to open up because we feel we're going to be judged. So if as a school, if we don't do that and give them that safe space and actually provide solutions for it. So if the child is being bullied, for example, if you're actually able to provide solutions, which are practical also, which the child can do also, without making the child feel like a failure or any less, I think that in itself will go a long way in, promoting pastoral care at schools. And that's what we do at our school. I mean, we give a lot of emphasis to pastoral care. Our school is very, very centered around emotional well-being. We have a good team of counselors. And we really encourage our children to come and speak. We encourage the children are now even look out for others. So very often you may have a senior child coming and telling the counselor that I think this child of grade 4 was seeming a little, upset or some behavior pattern. Why don't you look into it? So I think it's about creating that safe space and a space where that they're not going to be judged.
Yeah, because, we see that recently National Crime Bureau put out the latest data that tells us that, and this is non-accidental death or death by suicide, that this most vulnerable demographic is actually students.
Yeah.
And that's where the vital question comes in, that again, my colleague Mona Basu, who covers science for us, she wants to ask that mental health facilities or therapy has now become more accessible to the middle classes. But what about the rest? I mean, how do you spread it to those who may not have the reserves to spend on something which is not taking them to hospital right away?
So is she meaning like the marginalized sections?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I think like
affordability question.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like I said, the telemanas will be a huge, way forward for that because it is free. We also have a free helpline actually, and we get a lot of calls, asking for help, and it really helps at least take care of the acute psychological issues that come about. So and then we're also, I think if we're able to create centers in primary healthcare centers, if we're able to create counseling cells in primary healthcare centers, so accessibility becomes easier, and obviously offer it at a marginalized rate. So that's the only way that we can really make it more accessible to people. I mean, we will have to have more and more people who are willing to offer services at a subsidized rate. So we at our foundation in Bombay, for example, we have the center, which of course is not offering it at subsidized rates, but our foundation offers it at subsidized rates. And we have a lot of people coming there from, suburbs and from quite far off. And they're very happy with that. So I think if you are able to subsidize it, I think more and more people will certainly avail of the service.
Yeah. Sonia Agrawal, who covers education for us, she's asking, as the chairperson of Aditya Birla Integrated School and someone who has taken a keen interest in mental health advocacy and education, where do you think Indian schools are in terms of awareness towards children with special needs? And what, according to you, are challenges and next steps?
So the awareness for special needs is very low, is really very low. And not only in schools, it's very low amongst parents, actually. It's very difficult to get parents, to convince parents that the child actually is a child with special needs and really needs a very different kind of instructional method. And of course, the schools, because the numbers are so large, I don't think that the schools can really pay attention to individualized needs of students. Like we're creating awareness about mental health, we really need to create awareness about children with special needs. So I think what really happens is that children who are intellectually disabled are more easy to identify. But children who are in the in-between bracket, right, who don't have an intellectual disability, but who have a learning disability, as in their IQ is absolutely fine and they're very, very bright and talented kids, but they just may learn in a different manner. I think that's where the awareness is really lacking. Very often when they come into grade 5 and 6 and then they're not able to cope with a mainstream school, not because of anything, but just because they just need a different instructional method, is when the problems creep up. And then parents just find it difficult because they have this, again, there's a huge stigma. They just want the child to be in a mainstream school. Anything other than a mainstream is very stigmatized. So a lot of awareness is needed in that space, most certainly.
In India, when it comes to skilled people, there is a shortage almost in every area, but there's great shortage in medical area. So India has too few cardiologists, too few neurologists, too few nephrologists. Is my impression correct that this shortage is even more pronounced in the areas of mental health?
Oh, yes, most certainly. There's a huge shortage in the space of mental health. When it comes to psychiatrists, it's very difficult. So just to give you a small example, we're looking to increase our base in Bangalore. We have a center in Bangalore and we're wanting to increase the number of doctors that we have there. We're looking for a child psychiatrist in Bangalore. Now, Bangalore is tier 1, very large city.
Nimhans, Bangalore has Nimhans.
But we're just not finding a child psychiatrist in Bangalore. I mean, it's that bad. So it's the scarcity is a huge concern. The numbers are definitely very, very few. And it's the same with psychologists, but psychiatrists is even lesser.
So how do you address this shortage?
Yeah, so it's very tough. I mean, we're working at it. And with psychologists, what happens is that when we take them on, we also train them. So, we have a lot of projects going on where we're working with, say, CISF, with the police, with the government, and, in BMC schools. So we take psychologists and we train them. We put them through a rigorous training, and then we get them ready for for the role. But with psychiatrists, you can't do that, right? I mean, we're not a college,
Right.
we're not a medical school. So, I mean, I'm still scratching my head for a solution for that. If you have a solution, please give me one.
I don't know. I think in medical schools, people just want to prefer what will get them the most money going ahead. I think it used to be cardiology. It's still mostly cardiology, endocrinology. Usually it's a disease that richer people have because richer people live a bit longer because they have access to medical care and they pay more. So there is a sex appeal issue with a lot of the medical disciplines. Public health, for example. Public health is not an area in which people make a lot of money. It's more academic. But the pandemic reminded us that that is as important as maybe internal medicine or anything else. But so is mental health in that category also, you think? Or you think going ahead, mental health also may become remunerative for people to specialize in?
It's a hen and chicken situation, really. I think if more people ask for help, if more people are really willing to seek help, automatically the demand for psychiatrists will go up. I think already there is a demand, but obviously you can't compare it to, say, cardiology, for example, or you can't even compare it to, different forms of cancer, for example. But I think if the demand for it increases, I think people will realize, doctors, I think the medical fraternity will also realize that there is a need for it. And hopefully we'll have more medical colleges offering more courses for psychiatry as well. I think that's a huge area where, if we can do something in that, it'll really help bridge the gap.
Yeah. Now, by and large, by now, people accept the use of yoga, meditation, counseling for mental health. But when it comes to use of medication, there is still stigma. So how do you work on this in Mpower? At Mpower, do you go beyond the counseling, meditation to providing access to qualified doctors and prescriptions to those who might need them?
Yes, we offer psychiatric consultation as well. And it sort of goes in tandem depending on the severity of the case. So we have very well qualified doctors in all our centers. Even in the rural district mental health program, we have a psychiatrist. We have 2 psychiatrists there. And they are the ones who prescribe the medicine. So we are not very pharmacological heavy. But if it is needed, then yes, definitely the doctors would give out the medication. So we don't, I think it's a good blend of the two, and depending on the need of the individual is what is looked at.
Yeah. Now, a lot of online mental health counseling is coming. You are not counseling, but you're associated at least with an app which works in that direction. And a lot of that has come up during the pandemic. Not all of that is scientific or great. There are lots of self-styled experts, maybe with inadequate qualification or maybe no qualification. And they could be playing with people's minds. So what solution would you suggest? Or would you then suggest some kind of a regulator there, just as there is a regulator for all fields of medicine, for online mental health counseling as well?
Yeah. So the app doesn't offer online counseling, actually, Shekharji.
Yes, not yours, but I'm saying a lot of the others.
Yes. There's a lot of it there, actually. And like you're very rightly saying, it's very difficult to ascertain the quality of care that is being provided. So, I think, up until now, there was never any need for it because there were far and few in between. But yes, if they are mushrooming like this, I mean, a regulator would really help, because one is concerned that, what is the kind of quality care that is being provided. So having said that, I mean, if the basic qualification for a counselor is there, then telehealth is a great way to actually at least for people to reach out, and the psychological distress, the acute thing can at least be controlled. Very often just a call, just one 5-minute conversation is enough to actually prevent a person taking his life, to prevent a suicide. So keeping that in mind, it's a great service, but yes, provided it's quality care that is being provided. So a regulator would, if the government is able to do that and can do that, I think it'll go a long way.
Ram Ramamurthy, who wants to know, first of all, that in your activity, you might find that a lot more of the people who come to you are from privileged backgrounds, or at least backgrounds that have that internet level access to knowledge. How do you reach to the marginalized? We asked this question earlier in the but his question is more specific. If the ratio is not in favor of those from vulnerable backgrounds, is Mpower partnering with central and state governments to reach out?
Yes, we are. So we ourselves also work with a lot of NGOs, actually, like I said, who are from the marginalized sections of society. And we also have a collaboration with the government of Maharashtra for not only the helpline, but like I said, we're also working at the district rural level for the district rural intervention program. So we are working with them, and I mean, it's not that we get people only from privileged backgrounds. We have people coming in to us from all sections, pretty much covering the entire spectrum of the, economic standing.
Priyam Ghosh, who says increase in digitization was expected to make life easier, but so far it has not been so. Where do you think work culture is going, especially in India?
So again, this is I think I don't think there's any black and white sort of solution or rule for this. I think some of the businesses where, in any case, individuals are working, alone, are happy to work online. But I personally believe that, the human interaction is very, very important. So your work may be needing you just to work, alone. But working in an office environment also encourages social interaction. It also encourages you to meet other people. It encourages you to, have conversations around your work with other people. So in a way, it does widen your horizons otherwise also. So I think it's very important to, have that kind of a face-to-face interaction. I think online, of course, was very good with us when we were, in the pandemic. And I think you can still work in a hybrid fashion if you need to. But only online, not meeting people at all, may become worse and will definitely take a toll on your mental health, because social interaction is a very, very important part of all of us. I mean, we're all social beings. So, removing that from our sort of life will surely take a toll.
So there is Raj, who wants to know that stresses and mental health problems also come from other factors, like, for example, many unhealthy practices prevalent in India, like caste, patriarchy, homophobia, racism, etc. Can you access counselors specifically to help in those areas?
Yes, definitely. So at Mpower, we are actually focusing on LGBTQ this year, actually. So we've actually trained our counselors for LGBTQ counseling specifically. So, please feel free to contact them, and they're very happy to help in that. So our counselors sort of, like I said, we're also focusing on substance abuse, so there is a lot that we are doing in that space.
Yeah. Tell me something about your own experiences through your journey. Interesting things that happened, things that brought you some realizations that you might not have known earlier, and so on.
So I think just different things at different phases, like, like I said, when we started out Mpower. So when we started out, actually, we started out on a completely clean slate, just jumped into it because we didn't have any sort of, back with. But along the way, also, we realized that, certain sections will just welcome us with open arms, but that was not the case. We faced a lot of walls, and we had to very quickly course correct. So we had thought, for example, that schools will be a very easy, group of a cohort of section that we will be able to work with. And because obviously the problems were there, but they were the ones, they just were not open to it at all. Similarly, corporates were just not open to it. Surprisingly and very happily so, NGOs actually were the first group who were very, very keen and, happy to accept the services. And similarly, the foundation as well, the people, when it was subsidized to the marginal sections, they are the ones who really welcomed and were very willing and very happy to come for whether it was counseling, whether it was psychiatry. With NGOs, it was the workshops. They were very, very keen and very happy to take it on. So that was a huge learning, actually. That little bit of awareness, they were the ones who were the first ones to understand the situation, understand the problems, and understand that, yes, they need to bring about a change and there's something that they need to do. Whether it was for their beneficiaries, it was mainly for their beneficiaries. Sometimes they even took workshops for their own workers. Either way, I think it was an eye-opener of sorts.
Have you found some change? Have you found that gradually these institutions have figured? Or let me also ask a sort of a question, a corollary. Do you find that a lot of the schools, particularly schools which are in a competitive space, they don't want to admit that their students might have mental health challenges?
Yes, absolutely. Whether that was even for schools, even for corporates, I think initially they were not willing to take it because I think they felt that if they were to take a workshop, it would, in a sense, sort of affirm that, yes, there is a mental health concern and therefore they are taking it. But I think the needle has definitely moved. Most certainly schools are now open for it. So we're having a very nice event at one of our schools called Happy Place, where we have students coming in from various schools talking about mental health. This year, the theme is resilience. So keeping that as a theme, they explore it very creatively through photography, street plays, dance, music, extempore speeches. So this year, we have about 250 students participating and from 20, 30 different schools. So, there is definitely a shift. The needle is certainly moving. It's slow, but I think to create any change takes time. And we're okay with that. As long as, we're consistently and constantly moving, that's fine. I mean, I don't think that we can expect change to happen overnight.
Well, Neerja, thank you very much. And many, many congratulations on this new initiative. And I would also say gratitude on behalf of so many people who otherwise would not have found where to reach help in these very tricky situations easily. And I know that once you set something up and you make it scale up, other people will follow. And may the crowd grow. So before I let you go, I know you have many more things to do, including many interviews. Do you have a parting message to our viewers, listeners?
So I would say that, it's, which is what we say at Mpower, that it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay not to seek help. So it's all right that you feel that you may have a mental health concern. It's okay not to feel well. That's absolutely fine. But I think every individual has a right to lead a fulfilled life, and let's not deprive ourselves of it. So therefore, seek help. There is no harm in seeking help. It doesn't make you a less strong person. In fact, I believe that people suffering and dealing with mental health concerns are already very strong because you're literally, fighting each day of your life. The fight is with yourself, and that really makes it even more difficult. So we all are warriors, but seek help. There is no harm in that. And we're here to help. Mpower is here to help you, and you're not alone.
And the important thing is, when you want to seek help should be easily available. And that's the gap that Neerja Birla is trying to fill right now. So once again, all the very best to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shekharji. Thank you.
ThePrint Off the Cuff, presented by IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, corporate partner AU Small Finance Bank,